Here. Here.
Here.
All members of council are here and unaccomplished. This is on.
I move that we approve the minutes of February 16th, 2016, February 18th, 2016, and February 23rd, 2016.
Second.
It's been regularly moved and second that we approve the minutes of February 16th, February 18th, February 23rd, 2016. Roll call.
Mrs. Vaughn?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Powell?
Aye.
Mr. Romagna?
Aye.
Mr. DeLoreto?
Aye.
Mr. Dressel?
Aye.
So moved. Minutes accepted. Petitions and communications, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir, I have two. The first is dated February 3rd, 2016. Dear City Council members, I've noticed that there are no bus stop signs along the roads where the bus routes are. There are no benches and or shelter covers if it should rain. I have only seen one in front of the downtown Huntington Bank. After all, we are a college town. Could council please look into providing these, as we now have appropriate signs for pedestrians, handicap bicycle walkways, and sidewalks. I used to catch the public bus transportation to volunteer downtown from my home on Great Martin. Thank you for considering this. We appreciate all that you as council do and our board members. Sincerely, Mrs. Anna Sanfroci, P.S. Please call me regarding this, or I will look into the newspaper for an article.
Hearing no objections, the communication received, I'll make part of minutes. Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. I will ask the clerk to also to forward a copy of this letter to the Steel Valley Regional Transit Authority. Frank Fabino, the director, who is actually responsible for the bus shelters and the directional signs for the bus stops. Mr. Paul?
I was going to move that we. Thank you, sorry. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Are there other petitions and communications, Madam Clerk?
Yes, I have a second letter dated February 18th, 2016, regarding Balsam Terrace. Dear Frankie Anderson, the purpose of this letter is to apprise your office that the Woda Group, Inc. plans to be part of the general partnership of residential rental development located in or within a 1/2 mile radius of your political jurisdiction, and has submitted an application to utilize the housing tax credit and multifamily funding programs of the Ohio Housing Finance Agency for the development of this property. The Balsam Terrace project includes the construction of a new fully accessible and energy efficient apartment building dedicated solely to housing senior age 55 and over and elderly residents. The project consists of 51 1- and 2-bedroom units of housing designed for aging in place, along with a ground level supportive services and outreach center to be utilized by Jefferson County Community Action Council, Inc., our local neighborhood nonprofit partner in this endeavor. The proposed development will be financed utilizing one or more financial methods, including tax credit, equity from OPA, 9% low-income housing tax credits, OPA Housing Development Loan Program, low-interest bridge loan, home, bond, or other local housing trust dollars, a conventional construction loan, and a conventional first mortgage. The development team is Joseph M. McCabe, Vice President of Development, General Partner, the Woda Group, General Partner, Jefferson County Community Action Council, Developer, the Woda Group, Contractor, Woda Construction, Project Manager, Woda Management and Real Estate. Project address is 1805 Sinclair Avenue, Steubenville, Ohio, Jefferson County, 43952. Number of units, 51. You have the right to submit comments to the agency regarding the proposed project's impact on the community, and that objection to the project must be submitted in writing and signed by a majority of the voting members of the legislative body. Comments must be submitted within 30 days of this notice and received by the agency with 45 days of this notice. The person to be notified at OPA and their address is Mr. Douglas A. Carver, Executive Director, Ohio Housing Finance Agency, 57 East Main Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. OPA will provide a written response to any objections submitted under the terms outlined above. Sincerely, Joseph M. McCabe, Vice President, Development.
Mr. Bill Magna.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that the letter be received, made a permanent part of the record, and forwarded to council members, and also Mr. Dolak, the Planning Commission, and the manager and everybody else that's necessary. Okay? Thank you.
Second.
It's been really moved in a second that the communication received, file, made part of minutes, and refer to the planning commission, Mr. Dolak, our city engineer, Mr. Petrozzi, the urban projects director, and our city manager, members of council. Roll call.
Mrs. Vaughn.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Paul.
Aye.
Mr. Delagna.
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto.
Aye.
Mr. Grissel.
Aye.
So moved, communication received. Before we move on, I would like to make a comment on this communication. City staff has, over the last 30, probably 60 days, been working with the Rota Group on this development. And a lot of questions from our citizens because they heard. This is the same group that constructed Marine Green that's located on Fernwood Road out in the village of Wintersville. They did one other development here in our community quite a few years ago, a very reputable company. After consulting with our city engineer's office, the urban projects office, I do know that our fire chief, I believe, provided a letter of support. I, as acting city manager, provided a letter of support for them to receive the tax credit necessary to make this development happen. If you note on the address, 1805 St. Clair Avenue, it's a 51 unit that will be located towards the, I guess, Lamar's Run, St. Clair Avenue area, behind the mall by John Scott area. The property that is being negotiated is owned by Huberto Siciliano, and they have a tentative understanding and agreement to purchase the property. So everything is moving forward with this particular development. I want people to understand too, this is not Section 8 or low moderate income housing. This is a senior citizen development. It is, however, to receive the tax credit based on income, but it's not low. It's medium income, and that's how you adjust your rate, similar to the one that's located by the credit union, Valley One Venture Credit Union, yes. I think it's a very worthwhile development. There are some challenges to the site too, that they're going to have to address. Of course, you know that's in the Pomars watershed area, and we're under EPA requirements, so they'll have to construct some holding ponds for the water runoff and all. But they love the site, they love the accessibility to the Fort Steubenville Mall, and I think it will be a great, if they receive a tax credit addition to our community. But before the rumors start in the community, I wanted to make clear that it was not Section 8 housing or metropolitan housing. It's just that they're going through this, and we provided the letters of support for the tax credit and the application for those tax credits. With that, is there other petitions and communications, Madam Clerk? We will now move on to the ordinances and resolutions before City Council, and we'll move to ordinance number 2016-10 as amended for its second reading.
Ordinance number 2016-10 as amended, an ordinance adopting amendments to the City of Steubenville's Consolidated Plan and Community Development Block Grant Program, reprogramming funds.
You heard the second reading of ordinance number 2016-10 as amended. The third and final reading will be scheduled 2 weeks hence on March 15th. Ordinance number 2016-11 by the Planning Committee, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Gressel, Ms. Hahn, for its second reading.
Ordinance number 2016-11, an ordinance repealing existing section 113303 and enacting a new section 113303, and repealing chapter 1185 and enacting a new chapter 1185 of the zoning code.
You heard the second reading of ordinance number 2016-11. The third and final reading will be scheduled for April 12th However, there will be a public hearing by the Steubenville Planning and Zoning Commission on April 4th, 7 p.m. here at council chambers. Ordinance number 2016-12 by the Service Committee, Mr. Dioretto, Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Hahn for its second reading.
Ordinance number 2016-12, an ordinance authorizing and designating the city manager as the local official with the authority to execute the project known as Chestnut Alley Roadway Improvement, City Project number 2015-110, and complete all necessary functions that may be required to complete said project, including but not limited to engineering design services, right-of-way services, including acquisition of right-of-way, utility relocation, construction, administration, inspection services, bidding services, advertising for bids for construction, rebidding if required, entering into a contract with the lowest most qualified bidder, and authorizing payment therefor.
Here, the second reading of ordinance number 2016-12. Third and final reading will be held in 2 weeks on March 15th. If adopted by City Council, the effective date of this ordinance will be April 16th. Ordinance number 2016-16 by the Service Committee, Mr. Dioretto, Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Hahn for its second reading. First reading, I'm sorry.
Ordinance number 2016-16, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2003-48.
Here, the first reading of ordinance number 2016-16. Second reading will be 2 weeks hence on March 15th. The third and final reading on March 29th. If adopted, the effective date of this ordinance will be April 29th. That will conclude the ordinances and resolutions before City Council this evening. We will now move into the report of committee, and we'll start off with Mrs. Hahn.
I have nothing.
Thank you, Mrs. Hahn. We'll move on to Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call for a planning committee meeting. I don't believe we have anything for the last Tuesday of March. Anyway, how much time do you think we need? 6:30 is sufficient? 6 o'clock?
I would love to have 6 o'clock, yeah, if we could.
6 o'clock, good for you, Scott, good for you. 6 o'clock on the 29th, planning committee meeting.
And you'll get together with our city manager with the agenda.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. The clerk will facilitate a committee meeting scheduled for March 29th, 6 p.m. here at council chamber. Anything else, anything further, Mr. Johnson?
Nothing else, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We'll move on to Mr. Paul.
I have nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Mr. Bill Magna?
Mayor, I have nothing, but I don't know if Mrs. Hahn would like to say something about the road trips?
Sure.
Or are you prepared to say, because you kind of got me excited about it, so. Under economic development, yeah.
Well, I had the opportunity last week to go down to Portsmouth on Wednesday. I left City Council and drove down there last Tuesday night. And there was a conference sponsored by Heritage Ohio Main Street. They had a former mayor from Chillicothe who spoke about the importance of taking a historic building and working with a historic architect, using the historic code and the difference it could make in a community of having one major historic building in the downtown revitalized, and how much that ended up spilling over into buildings across the street and up and down the street. An enormous encouragement now in Chillicothe. And you go online and see it. They were a city founded only a couple years after us, and this building is one of their very oldest buildings. We also heard from a major economic development person out of Columbus, someone who works on urban infill and catching what a new vision is happening in a lot of downtown areas throughout the country, not just Ohio. A lot of millennials and a lot of people in early retirement are choosing to come to downtown flats, limiting how much they have to use transportation, looking for opportunities to shop and do grocerying, Obviously, we're a long way from that, but it's a wonderful thing to sort of see. This isn't an isolated case. There are many downtown districts seeing this kind of revitalization. And he talked about the need to really try to track trends, both with baby boomers and millennials, and get traction, while you can. So we're trying to explore some options along those lines. And he's a major developer. Then they had a woman from Newark who was just someone who wanted a little storefront, ended up buying the building, ended up creating lofts, and now she's been a part of a major revitalization in Newark. And both she and the other man said the goal is not for the city to purchase lots of buildings. The city doesn't need to be worrying about tenants. The city government doesn't need to worry about tenants. But what the city can really do is work on the traffic flow. We can work on the streetscaping. We can work on those elements that help tie all that together and help build how attractive it is for people to come downtown. And then I ended up with lunch with the people who head the organization of Heritage Ohio. They really urged us to look into the historic code. This is a really important tool for us to be able to use. And then the next day I went to Hamilton, Ohio, and had 3 hours with Liz Hayden. She's their business specialist, and we just talked about their entire process. A lot of times you'll have an older building that will require so much funding, and you have the tax abatements, you have the tax incentives, but for tax credits to kick in, they come at the end. So you've got a developer who has so much money, but to get a project completed, they can't pull it all together to get to the end where they can get the credits that will pay them back. And a lot of banks, especially in conditions like ours where there are a number of buildings in need of work, they don't know that it's a good risk. And so in Hamilton, none of the banks would offer any money until the project was complete. So how do you provide for this gap funding or bridge funding? Well, one of the major people who contributed was the local foundation, and I don't even know if we have a local foundation. I know there's one across the river that is open to doing some investing here, but what they convinced them was instead of buying stock in Apple and Google and other places, how about if you invest in this particular building and we will pay you back first. So they provided $1.5 million, which was the gap between what the developer had and what they needed to finish. They got it finished, it's already filled with tenants, and they're doing other projects. And within 9 months, they paid the foundation back because the banks were like, okay, now you've got residents, this is a good risk. And so we will give you a kind of a typical 30-year mortgage, which not only provided the rest of the funds they could then give back to the foundation and not have debt hanging out over the heads of just the citizens. Okay, not only did that, but then it also guaranteed that they would have funds in reserve so that 15 years down the road when they need to redo carpeting and other elements of keeping the building in great condition, the money would be there because they had this 30-year mortgage. So anyway, it's it's a slightly different model, and now they have this, you can look it up on Hamilton, it's called CORE, and now they have banks on this major organization. They have their own local architect who has bought in, and now he heads CORE, so they have easy access to a very competent architect who is happy to sit down at any point and just help come up with drawings. And so anyway, it's been interesting. Our next stop hopefully is going to be Cambridge, and Marietta will be the next two we'll visit. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Billman. Thank you. We'll continue on to Mr. Diaretta.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Diaretta. Mr. Dressel?
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Dressel. I will conclude the reports of committees. Before we move into the administrative officer, I would like to call to everybody's attention that we have a vacancy of our third ward seat. And City Council, we announced that we would conduct interviews this coming Thursday, and that is still scheduled for March 3rd. However, we thought we would start at 5:30. Well, we we received 5 individuals that are interested in filling that vacancy, so we're going to move the time a little bit. I'm announcing tonight that the interview process will start at 5 p.m. this coming Thursday here at Council Chambers. They will be open to the public if you're interested in attending. However, the members of council will be conducting the interviews and asking the questions, but of course, anybody willing to sit in and listen is welcome to. We'll go in alphabetical order according to their last name. So at 5 p.m. we'll start off with Donahue, 5:30 Fletcher, 6 p.m. Holiday, 6:30 McIntyre, 7 p.m. Timmons. So with that, does council want to have any? I know that later on, Scott's going to be, or Mr. Dressel's going to be working on some questions and forwarding them to the members of council before Thursday when we arrive here.
5 o'clock,
Starting at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. this coming Thursday. It was originally announced for 5:30. And we will consider that really a meeting of council, but it's going to be open because more than sunshine laws to meet the requirements. With that, we will move into the administrative officer's report. And tonight, it really gives me a great honor to call on for the very first time the 7th city manager of the city of Steubenville, James S. Mavromatis, for a report. Mr. Mavromatis.
Thank you, Mayor.
First meeting. Be good to us.
This ended my 7th day. I've worked over the weekend. The most important thing is meeting with the employees. I met with approximately 58 employees. Tomorrow morning, I'll start with the maintenance and sanitation people. Unfortunately, the 7th day, we had to go to a tragic incident today. Our fire department did an unbelievable job of, you hear this comment, they never save buildings. They saved the house. Unfortunately, we lost somebody in the fire. But they did a remarkable job. The quickness of them responding. Our police department was there to maintain orderly conduct in the neighborhood. So these are all things I'm seeing firsthand. I know a lot of times you as citizens see things or hear things and never gather all the facts. Well, that's part of my job, is gathering the facts and knowing what my people do. My department heads that are sitting in here, you may or may not have seen maybe a change in their dress. There's a reason for that. This is official meetings like tonight, and this is our seat of government here. Our city fathers and mothers are here. It's the respect that they deserve from our city employees. Sunshine meetings are different. They're very quick. You may see some of the employees that come in different clothes. There's a reason for that. They're out in the streets working. They're called out and they just get off to come down here. But again, part of my job or my management style is getting to know my employees, letting them know what I expect out of them. I had my first department head meeting last week. It was very simple. This is what I expect out of you. I want at least 8 hours a day on your job. I do not expect them to work my hours. I've already handled complaints from several citizens. Good complaints, a lot of information. I'm looking for Mr. Nelson. Is he around here? He called me Sunday on an issue. Again, Mr. Murphy's crew took care of it today. They quickly repaired it, but today they fixed it the way it needs to be. The citizens that live up by what they call Pico Park, again, I listened to them Sunday. When I got out of my car, they just came over. And the bottom line is that is not our park. But we are going to work with the county and see that we can get the changes made there. The biggest issue that we have in this town is miscommunication and wrong communication. People do not have all the facts. And I said this before, and all I can do is ask you, when you get ready to make a complaint, do you have all the facts? Even though somebody told you that, if you were not there and did not see it, and you want to repeat it, you're held accountable for that statement. And all I can ever ask of a citizen, please be truthful. I will get to the bottom of the issues, and I will get back to you. I've already played phone tag with Mr. Elliott, the Reverend, and he's bringing students to work here in the city. We are short-staffed, there's no doubt about it in some of our departments, but I will use everything at our disposal, and I will clearly tell you this. The business community wants to work with the city, and the city is going to work with them, and you will see the changes. And Rome wasn't built in a day, and it's not going to get better in a day, but we're starting already, and that's all I can tell you. All I ask you is if you come to me with an issue, be factual about it. I will listen to you, and we will get to the bottom of it. So again, I haven't even had a chance to meet with my bosses here, and we're going to do that this Sunday, or Saturday. There's things that I need to explain to them, and to get our communications going, so there is no missed thing. I try to let my secretary, Melissa, know when I leave that building and where I'm going. I can be reached by phone, but again, today I missed Mr. Paul. We just crossed paths, but I was headed out to the fire. Again, this was unbeknownst to my secretary because I was outside when I got the call about the fire. So I headed up there mainly to see how our fire department operates. And I will tell you this right now, they are extremely professional. They do their job. When those men go in those burning houses, it's to save people and try to save the structure, and they did their job today. As far as the fatality today, this was clearly out of their hands. This existed when they arrived there. So the bottom line is, give us some time. You saw the transparency when they hired me, and that's the transparency that I'm going to give back to the city. Some of you probably not have noticed I have not made a comment, and Mayor, if I'm out of order on this, tell me about the letter. Yes or no?
Do it.
All right. I haven't wrote my comment to the editor yet, and I'm going to do that tomorrow. The reason being, I wanted to go and meet with my finance director over here, Mr. Lewis. The poor man, I've pestered him to the nth degree. The bottom line is I have reviewed that. I am satisfied. This is a necessary levy we need. It's a renewal. It's not a new levy. And you'll read my report to the letter to the editor, because this is something that we do need this to maintain our order and what we're doing here. I'm looking at everything in this city department on what we do, where we can cut, where we need more resources, and the only way you can do that is get out there and look and talk to your employees, but also get the feedback. I've had numerous citizens come to me already with information. Some of it, again, it's the rumors they hear. I've squelched that. The other is they've brought some things. I've been able to sit down with them and explain some things. I have a secretary. Please call her. If you need to see me, we will make the appointment. There's 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. If that's what it takes to get this city back when we need it, then that's what we're going to do. And I rely on these department heads over here. We have the new captain here, Captain Lemmel, just promoted. I'll tell you, you're very fortunate to have a man like that out on the street. You have good officers, and we're going to change some tactics there. The press have contacted me several times to speak. I've asked them, I've held them at abeyance for this reason. I said, give me 30 days. That's what I need. I need that 30 days to look at this city, look at our employees, and look at the whole picture. And in 30 days, they'll get a report on what I see and the direction that we're going to go. So all I do is ask you, be candid with me when you talk to me, and I'll be more than happy to work with you. And again, I appreciate the time you afforded me.
Thank you, Mr. Mavromatis, and we look forward to future reports. And I will say, Mr. Mavromatis, you were out of line. The reason you were out of line is that we're not allowed to bring issues or candidates to a public meeting. However, Orps is right, and I will stand corrected. You hit it right on point about about March 15th. We do have two important issues, a 3/10 renewal and a 7/10 renewal on the ballot. And of course, we're doing an outreach to our citizens, explaining the importance and how we use the money. Today, I had the opportunity speaking at the Kiwanis Club, tomorrow the Lions Club. I know Ms. Hahn spoke to the Rotary last Friday, and at the tail end, made a plea with them. We're out looking for support. However, there is a fine line of what we can do at a public meeting and with government resources. Mr. Mavromatis, although you are out of line, I would never gavel you out of order. So, with that, we will now move on to the other administrative. By the way, if anybody wants some interesting reading, today's Herald Star, front page, city voters asked to renew 2 levies. Take a moment to read that article. A lot of good information and facts in it. We'll move on to our law director, Mr. Rapella.
That's a report, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Rapella, and we want to take this opportunity to thank the department heads for attending tonight's council meeting. We will now move into miscellaneous reports from the members of council. One signing in, Mr. Diarra.
Thank you, Your Honor. Everybody hear me? Yeah. All I'll do is I want to thank the county commissioners for opening up that jail. It's been almost 3 years I've been after them. I thank the sheriff. I think that's the first step in our cooperation between the county and the city. We're going to save people money, it's going to be more expedient, and I'm looking forward to working with them. Also, we're also going to take under consideration of moving the court over to the Justice Center for J.J. Mascio. That's going to be another move. Of course, the mayor, he is spearheading the health department's combination, so that will be saving us money, also along the line. So everybody's on the same boat for a change. And I have to be on that boat, even though I'm in the rear. And finally, that lady that wants more benches, Mr. Fortunato and I took all the benches downtown at our own expense and the business people's expenses because of various reasons. The undesirables were there, the prostitutes there, the drug dealers were there, the police department were coming out, and it was a mess. So if the bus department wants to put up theirs, let them put them up and let them clean them up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diarretto. And to follow up his comment about the announcement last Thursday, I know several members of council were able to attend along with Mr. Mavromatis and I. But the opening up of the jail cells is extremely important to our community. And as I indicated today, then a lot of times our citizens here, our residents ask, what about the piggyback tax that is being generated by Jefferson County? Most of it's generated here. In fact, about 75% of that piggyback tax is generated in the county seat. And we don't actually receive dollars from the county, but we receive sometimes in-kind services. Well, let me tell you, because of the receipts of the piggyback tax, that's how we opened up those jail rooms for our criminals. So that is your piggyback tax going to work. The Board of County Commissioners in 2015 took great concern about the budget. They asked a lot of the departments to cut back, to stop spending, to reduce time and staff. As you're well aware, I work for the county also. Our division, regional planning, was affected by that, and I personally was affected, but understood. In 2016, you can see the reasons they were asking for that action, and opening up the additional jail space at the Justice Center was necessary. At least when our police officers make the arrest, we know that there's room at the end for the criminals of our community. So with that, that will conclude the miscellaneous reports. We will now move into public forum. Is there anyone wishing to speak to City Council on city business? Please come forward, state their name and address.
Yes, my name is Joseph Summerall, Sr. I live at 112 Starkdale Road. The reason I'm here tonight is twofold. First of all, I want to congratulate Mr. Mavromatis because he talked to me a few times already about facts. And that's what gets distorted a lot of times. I get a question about the property that we acquired from the city by our credit union. And I had a lot to do with that in bringing it We are still in the process. I checked with Mr. Petrozzi, and he explained we had to have the property surveyed. That's what's being held up. But as soon as we get that thing done and we get the deed to the property, we will start cleaning that property because it's a mess. It's been that way for 3 years. The second thing, I want to talk to, I don't know who this is questioned to, Mr. Mavromatis, I want to ask you, maybe you know. A guy approached me, because everybody thinks I come to council because they see, and they say, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? I'm trying to get the facts. But if you know where you're coming down Market Street, you see Steubenville, that real nice white and green, red. Above that, I remember when I was a kid, it was always said that Washington had his horses stopped there one time. That was I was told. I'm not sure about the facts. But I had a guy approach me and he said, that looks like hell. It's all grown up. It's not even white anymore. And he wants to do it at no cost to the city if it's possible. And I'd like to check, I don't know who I gotta see to get the key to that gate to let him in, or if he could do it. If you know anything,
This is probably the best way to do it, and again, I probably should have said this, a lot of times, the public comes up here to speak. If they would have contacted me, we could have probably answered some things, but the short answer is this, you let me get the answer for you, and I'll get a hold of you first.
well, I didn't know who to contact, that's when I come here. I know I can talk to you, I already have,
I'll take
and
care of
you've
it.
always, like you said, get the facts. And I'm trying to get them, so that maybe that could be a nice place for, you know, like you, Ms. Hahn, you said tonight, historic. That's historic. Because I know when I was a little kid, they said, yeah, Washington let his horses drink water. And I don't see nothing ever needs to. If we can clean it up, I know a guy that wants to do it, maybe I'll give it the historic side. I don't know. 'Cause I've been talking. Thank you.
Mr. Drexel.
I wanted to mention, you brought the water trough up, Ken Perkins is trying to put together a group to sort of adopt a park and adopt that area. Now, it's stone, so you can't paint it, but it needs to be cleaned and remortared and put back together. So whoever that is that you were talking to, they should contact Ken, and they can get together, because I think they're already working with Chris to get access to the area and do the paperwork to take it over as one of the park areas. So there's a committee started already, and I'm pretty sure if Ken's doing it, it'll probably get done.
I
So.
just want to get facts, and I'll
Yeah.
get some more, and I'll get back there. Anybody, even you said Historic Society, I talked to that guy that writes to the paper all the time, Mardo, Barry, he's always in the paper. He saw me today, and he told me, because they got the historic place down on Franklin,
Yeah,
you know, and I just wanted to find out where to go.
and Ken at Tri-State Financial, so you
Okay,
want to
thank
call,
you.
yeah.
Also, former councilman of the 6th Ward, Mr. Rollins, is interested. He sent a note down to the office about a week ago that he's interested. In fact, Mr. Bill Magna and I were meeting in my office, and he was out front, and I was in a meeting with Mr. Bill Magna and didn't have an opportunity, but he has some volunteers. And we do have a key to that gate in my office, so we will be able to coordinate that with Mr. Perkins, Mr. Rollins, and that is the old watering trough on Market Street. And as you all know, we came down that hill many times. The bakery, you could smell the bread across the street from that being baked on Market Street. But a lot of good memories. Thank you, Mr. Sidmore.
You weren't old enough to be on a horse, were you, Don?
I was one of the horses. Somebody led me to that water. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to City Council on city business? Please come forward, state their name and address.
Anthony DeCarlo Antonio, 700 Lawson Avenue. I happened to come in early with my Aunt Teresa and my mom, and I had a question about those two ordinances that you guys brought up in the first meeting. I wanted to ask you if the RICO statute by any chance, if that would apply to those ordinances. I just wanted to know out of curiosity.
Mr. Mavromatis.
The RICO statute, some states have a RICO statute, mainly it's been set up by the federal law.
The budget. They ask a lot of the departments to cut back, to stop spending, to reduce time and staff. As you're well aware, I work for the county also. Our division, regional planning, was affected by that, and I personally was affected, but understood. In 2016, you can see the reasons they were asking for that action, and opening up the additional jail space at the Justice Center was necessary. At least when our police officers make the arrest, we know that there's room at the end for the criminals of our community. So with that, that will conclude the miscellaneous reports. We will now move into public forum. Is there anyone wishing to speak to City Council on city business? Please come forward, state their name and address.
Yes, my name is Joseph Summerall, Senior. I live at 112 Starkdale Road. The reason I'm here tonight is twofold. First of all, I want to congratulate Mr. Mavromatis, because he talked to me a few times already about facts. And that's what gets distorted a lot of times. I even had a question about the property that we acquired from the city by our credit union. And I had a lot to do with that in bringing it. We are still in the process. I checked with Mr. Petrozzi, and he explained we had to have the property surveyed. That's what's being held up. But as soon as we get that thing done and we get the deed to the property, we will start cleaning that property because it's a mess. It's been that way for 3 years. The second thing, I want to talk to, I don't know who this is questioned to, Mr. Mavromatis, I want to ask you, maybe you know. A guy approached me, because everybody thinks I come to council because they see, and they say, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? I'm trying to get the facts. But if you know where you're coming down Market Street, you see Steubenville, that real nice white and green, red. Above that, I remember when I was a kid, it was always said that Washington had his horses stopped there one time. That was I was told. I'm not sure about the fact. But I had a guy approach me and he said, that looks like hell. It's all grown up. It's not even white anymore. And he wants to do it at no cost to the city if it's possible. And I'd like to check, I don't know who I got to see to get the key to that gate to let him in, or if he could do it. If you know anything,
This is probably the best way to do it, and again, I probably should have said this. A lot of times, the public comes up here to speak. If they would have contacted me, we could have probably answered some things, but the short answer is this: you let me get the answer for you, and I'll get a hold of you first.
well, I didn't know who to contact, that's when I come here. I know I can talk to you, I already have,
I'll take
and
care of
you've
it.
always, like you said, get the facts. And I'm trying to get them, so that maybe that could be a nice place for, you know, like you, Ms. Hahn, you said tonight, historic. That's historic. If I know when I was a little kid, they said, yeah, Washington let his horses drink water. And I don't see nothing ever needs to. If we can clean it up, I know a guy who wants to do it, maybe I'll give it the historic side. I don't know. Thank you.
Mr. Drexel.
I wanted to mention, you brought the water trough up. Ken Perkins is trying to put together a group to sort of adopt a park and adopt that area. Now, it's stone, so you can't paint it, but it needs to be cleaned and remortared and put back together. So whoever that is that you were talking to, they should contact Ken, and they can get together, because I think they're already working with Chris to get access to the area and do the paperwork to take it over as one of the park areas. So there's a committee started already, and I'm pretty sure if Ken's doing it, it'll probably get done.
I
So.
just want to get facts, and I'll
Yeah.
get some more, and I'll get back there. Anybody, even you said Historic Society, I talked to that guy that writes to the paper one time, Mardo, Barry, he's always in the paper. He saw me today, and he told me, because they got the historic place down on Franklin,
Yeah,
you know, and I'm just wanting to find out where to go.
and Ken at Tri-State Financial, so you
Okay,
want to
thank
call,
you.
yeah.
Also, former councilman of the 6th Ward, Mr. Rollins, is interested. He sent a note down to the office about a week ago that he's interested. In fact, Mr. Bill Magna and I were meeting in my office, and he was out front, and I is in a meeting with Mr. Bill Magna and didn't have an opportunity, but he has some volunteers. And we do have a key to that gate in my office, so we will be able to coordinate that with Mr. Perkins, Mr. Lawless, and that is the old watering trough on Market Street. And as you all know, we came down that hill many times. The bakery, you could smell the bread across the street from that being baked on Market Street. But a lot of good memories there. Thank you, Mr. Sidmar.
You weren't old enough to be on a horse, were you, Don?
I was one of the horses. And somebody led me to that water. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to City Council on city business? Please come forward, state their name and address.
Anthony DeCarlo Antonio, 700 Lawson Avenue. I happened to come in early with my Aunt Teresa and my mom, and I had a question about those two ordinances that you guys brought up in the first meeting. I wanted to ask you if the RICO statute by any chance, if that would apply to those ordinances. I just wanted to know out of curiosity.
Mr. Mavromatis.
The RICO statute, some states have a RICO statute, mainly it's been set up by the federal law